All right. Hey, animators, Eric here. Hope you had a great holiday. It's been going great for me. Hopefully, everyone's New Year is going to be great, and I'm excited to just keep moving forward with this course. All right, so today I want to do kind of a character turn. I didn't prepare anything for this. We'll just work through it as I know it. All right, and I think this is a great opportunity to understand character construction, and before you get into too much character animation, to I wouldn't say master, but familiarize yourself with the character that you're going to be animating, so that you can work with them from different angles. And let's just go ahead and get into it. So the first thing I want to do is create a little guide for myself. And in terms of brush, I'm just using Procreate pencil, keeping this pretty simple. Okay. I've got a little vertical line and a little bottom line. Let me get out of my flipbook mode so that I can create a new layer. Alrighty, and the last thing I want to do is just drag this out. Sorry, let me get in my timeline editing. I'm still getting used to some of how Procreate Dreams operates, so I wouldn't say I'm like any kind of master of how the software works through and through, but you can watch me work and see how I do things in my approach. But surely that'll help you. All right, so let me just change my layer here. So I've got this drawing, and I've got, okay, looks like I already had a new track. All right, so I've got a track over a guide. So I drew that guide from behind. Now you can see that'll be there. And so the next thing I want to do here is draw my Norman. I'm going to still be working with Norman, so I'm going to draw Norman from the front. And let's see here, keep it pretty loose to start off. The guide will really help you keep a lot of balance as we work through this one. So you can see my circle left to right side is pretty even. I'm going to just also put his body down the middle. He's a pretty simple character. Kind of a teardrop body. Circle head. His legs kind of come in like this. Feet going out. Like so. And you can stylize. It doesn't really matter how big the feet are. Anything like that. Whenever I'm working with Norman, I like to, I don't always do it, but it helps to kind of divide the body into thirds, like this. Something like that. And I like to do that because the leg kind of comes from that top part of the bottom third, here, like that. And he's got a little crotch down there in the middle. This region is kind of like his stomach, and then his arms, for convenience, kind of come out the middle like that. You can draw a little circle, throw a thumb on there, draw the hands out like that. Okay, there you go. And then you can do the same with the head too. So draw out a line like this, put his nose in. He's got kind of a big nose. And then that'll help guide your eyes as well. So something like this. All right, there you go. Okay, so we've got our flipbook, we've got Norman post out. And now we'll just work on how to kind of rotate the character around. So the next thing you'll do is go to your next kind of keyframe. And what I like to do is draw Norman at his side view. So I'm going to keep the head pretty much where it's at. This is kind of how I learned through Don Bluth. So I'm not trying to change the formula much. His butt might look a little bit different. at the side view, so you can kind of predetermine how that might look based on your preference. You can see how the turn kind of happens here. And you really want to lock in these features. So this hand is going to be coming this way. So kind of keep his hand like this. And do a little bit of foreshortening here. And the thumb we can have just sort of stick out like that. And the same on this outer side here. Something like that. Just kind of clean up this here. Okay, line up that nose. So really we're just trying to line all of these features up. Get the eyes right, so you can kind of draw a line for your eye if you want. This pupil's a bit too big. I'm just going to keep going through this rather quickly here. Let me just dial this eye in a little. There we go. Put this brow in. So you can see all of these things are kind of lining up from here to here to here. And that's really important when your character is rotating, to really get that different angle to sell. All right, so that was pretty straightforward. Now we want to do I kind of like to do different views together. So we've got our front facing left. Now I want to do facing right. So I can just keep things consistent. And as I'm working on a side view, it's easier to jump to my other side view that I had than to revisit the side view and try and think through everything I did for that side view. So there we go. Drop that nose in. It's important to be able to execute these character turns. Not only for design, but just like I said before, if you're going to be animating a character over and over and over, it's important to just build in like this muscle memory of how to draw and approach the character. Okay, and so I'm going to do something kind of similar over here with the foreshortening. Put this thumb kind of like this. The hand going away. Let me just kind of clean this up a little. And let me turn off my onion skin so I can really see this clearly. One thing that kind of bothers me about what I did here is this hand isn't quite lining up with that other one. I'm not going to be a huge stickler about this, but you know, it's always important whenever you're kind of working on this phase to build these sort of guidelines that help you assemble things. But through this process, you can still see essentially how to get these things done. All right, I might put in like a little bit of a back foot there on this side. And then in between these two now, just gonna keep the circle on point, like this. I think when I'm doing a character turn, the one thing that really stays pretty consistent is the location of the torso here. So on this one, I'm going to this hand over here is going to be over here. So I want to keep that line correct. And then this one will be over here. Break my Norman in thirds. This is going to be the back of my character. So it's a pretty simple frame. See, keep this hand over here. this. And now this one is going to be dropped a little bit lower over here if I'm really trying to match what I did. You always want to get the best results. So you're not wasting a bunch of time making revisions. Then here you might kind of see something like this, since we're seeing the back of the character. And I don't have ears on Norman, so don't worry about that. All right, let me turn off my onion skin. And here you can start to see Norman as he's turning around. Cool. So those are our main poses. Now you have a 3/4, which is probably one of the most important poses to be able to draw in. And it's kind of an in-between from the front and the side. So once again, I'm just going to be basically tracing out this circle. And as your character's head is more complex, it won't be as straightforward. If your head was, something more along the lines of like a human skull like this, as your character's head is turning, you have much more like of a dynamic drawing to work with. But since Norman's just a straight circle, it looks very similar from side to side. Okay, so this is going to be our 3/4 view. So it's going to drop down the middle here like this. Try and keep these eyes fairly consistent. Like so. This brow's basic in between, like that. Body's going to be relatively the same. Give myself a little construction line down the middle. That's where it's called a 3/4 because if you look at this like a 3D object, it's now rotating where 25% of this side is facing away from the camera, and we're seeing a majority of this side towards the camera. So the character is turned, but not fully. And that line down the middle is going to help you kind of line up these legs, since the feet are kind of turning away from us. Okay, there we go. Now this one. So when you're looking at it, the feet are going to be kind of look like they're shrinking a little bit because that back one's going to be facing away and this one's going to be facing more towards us because it flips around, and at that side view it's going to be landing like that. Okay, so I'm just going to keep working through this here. Alrighty, and you can see here's my previous hand, and that's at the side view. So this 3/4 is pretty much like an in-between. So you want this hand to sort of land in this area like so. Nice clean in-between on my thumb. It's a little bit tricky. Let me just land this a little bit better here. Okay, so this thumb's kind of lining up here. This hand's coming here, so I want to get the right angle for this thumb. It's important to kind of keep some of these things in at least a quality perspective as it turns, so that the illusion of your character turn isn't completely lost. And now the arm over here is going to be facing us. So you can kind of see here's where one hand is, here's where the other one is. It's going to be landing somewhere here. Just erase some of that guide work. Okay. Get that thumb in the middle. All right. So if I turn my onion skin off, you can really start to see how Norman is turning. I think maybe this in between on this arm could be adjusted a little bit better. So always go through and check your work. Animation is a lot about revising. I see I landed that in between a little bit wrong because I was looking at my two forward moving frames, and really I just want to keep these down to 1. So let me just make a quick adjustment here. There, that'll help me land this a little bit better. So really when you're doing your in-between, you want to capture the 2 locations of your objects. So kind of turning this way, so really that hand needs to land about there, which I think I was close, but it wasn't quite on the mark. So let me just take another stab at that. That's already feeling a little bit better. And then that thumb comes up like that. Then the hand will kind of extend out like that. I don't want it to come too far down, so I just want to pay really close attention to how I'm building this out. So it looks like my hand is kind of staying maybe a little bit more flat like that. Let's just preview. It's feeling all right. I kind of wish the hand was a little bit more facing up, so you can see just the attention to detail that you want to have when you're kind of tackling these projects. There we go, that's feeling a little bit better. Okay, one thing I want to do is copy this first frame now and come here and paste it. And create an in-between here. All right, and whoops. Sorry, just didn't undo by touching. Some of the frustrating things of having a touch screen device is just making contact might spur up some action that you don't want to happen. All right. And now we want this eye here to line up with this eye, so this in between is going to be somewhere here as we move into the 3/4, which will put my other eye right here. There we go. Let's get the nice in between there for the body. All right, and now this hand is basically going to be coming this way. Get my thumb in. Here I'm just kind of lining things up, keeping it a little bit loose. Something like that. And you can always go back in and start to refine your drawings. Rarely ever do I kind of commit to like really detailed drawings until I've landed just where these things are going to be placed from the get-go. And I find that if I spend too much time on my details of each frame here, I'm just going to get lost in one particular drawing or something, and it'll just eat up my time. And I find that I'm more productive if I just sort of move forward. All right, so this foot I want to kind of go out this way. All right, so you can kind of see how it's developing as I'm doing my character turn. So you can see where you really want to line up those features and how to execute the in-betweens as your character is turning. So when the character is like your 3/4 rear view, you can essentially do the same thing here, doing an in-between like that. So if I were doing this in between like this, trace the head, poke the nose out a little bit, and just quickly fire through this, like so. Just doing the same kind of in-betweening process that I've done before. You can see how those thumbs are kind of lining up. The hands are lining up like that. Okay, and this back part is going to be kind of coming through right here, so the butt will actually be kind of facing this way. That. There you go, so you get a little bit more butt on the back here. See, how do I want these feet to look? Kind of want a little bit of foot like that. And then so you can just essentially do the same type of in between here. Keep it pretty loose. The nose is kind of going away. You can see our back is kind of shifting its shape a little bit right there. Find a nice in-between state for my thumb. In between for the arm. Place that in. So once you're executing your own character or someone else's character, all of the same things pretty much apply. And yeah, could this look pristine? Sure, but I'm just doing this live for you guys to show you a little bit about the process to execute some of these things like a character turnaround. Again, I want my butt somewhere around here. That. Bring this foot out a little bit like this. Okay, and I think that'll give us a pretty good result. Let me just delete this last frame because this was a reference for us, because this frame is going to loop back. To the very first one here. So let's go ahead and close out of our flipbook now and go to our editing. And I want to try something here. You can see each drawing is just lasting one frame long. You can see my characters rotating. But really we want these probably on 2s or 4s. So what I want to try here, someone left a tip that I can select all of these. And when I'm going into moving, let's see, nope, that didn't work. Okay, what I'm trying to do is extend the frame. So like, here's the tip that I got. Let me get out of this. To extend a frame like this, or even like this, you have to kind of do one at a time, or that's what I was doing. But what I want to do really is see if I can do this to multiple at a time. There you go. So I selected all of them. I'll just show you again. I selected all of them using my editing tool here in my timeline edit, and I selected this drawing right here. Any of these, I took an edge, grabbed it, put my other finger on, boom, and it moved all of them at the same time, which is super powerful to not have to go through and adjust that on each one. But yeah, so here you can see the character turn. If you had a more dynamic character, you would really see those features as the character turns around. But with Norman, it keeps it really simple. So the feet are straightforward, then they're kind of turning, then they're away from the body, then they're behind, coming around, rotating towards us, and then back this way. And you can see how I really kept that nose on the line, kept those arms in line, and how I did the in-betweening process. So as you practice these with characters, you'll get better and better. And I really kept this pretty simple, but this is kind of how we teach it essentially for our beginners at the college level and at my camp. And it really does give a really great result. And I've seen students of mine pick a different character and apply this technique, and really it works. So I definitely challenge you to get your own character and use this workflow to do a character turnaround, and I bet you'll love it. Thanks again for watching. Eric here. Check out milehighanimatio.com and subscribe. I really appreciate you. And until next one, goodbye.